Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome along to the Sports Corner Live. This is it. The World Darts Championship draw is going to get underway in about half an hour's time. I just need to do a few sound checks first before we get prepared for what is going to be a very exciting evening of action. The World Darts Championship, it's the most enjoyable event of the year, I think you've got to say, for everybody who's involved in the world of darts. And as I said, over the next half an hour before we get underway with all of the action, we will be talking about all of the 96 players that have got themselves into this competition. And of course, making our predictions along the way. It's not just going to be on my own. I'm going to be joined a little bit later on by my good friend Chris Welch, who was my partner on the Double Top podcast. We will, of course, get through all of that in a moment. But just very quickly, before I do start, I'm just going to take myself off screen. Do tell me in the chat if the sound quality is all right, whether it needs to be turned down or up, because this is the first time I've actually streamed in our studio for quite some time. So I'm getting used to using all of the equipment again. It's been a little while since I've been on here. So yeah, do give me a heads up in the chat. I'm just going to take myself off screen very quickly so you guys don't hear an echo. But fingers crossed, hopefully, we should be all good. And then we'll get underway with a little bit of talk ahead of the World Darts Championship draw. It starts in about 30 minutes. So stick around on here if you haven't got access. If you do have access, then you can watch it on Sky Sports News and also on Facebook as well. But I'll be back in 2 seconds. I'll just check if the sound's all right. Give me 2. And there we go. We're all sorted. Apologies for the wait once again. And welcome along, everybody, to the World Darts Championship 2022. God, how has this year absolutely flown by? That's right. It's the biggest competition in the world. And you can see on the bottom of your screen, the draw starts in about half an hour's time. But for those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Josh. I'm the darts connoisseur, I guess you could say, of the sports corner. If you are new, as always, don't forget to leave a like and a subscription. We've got loads and loads of darts content to come over the next couple of weeks. If you've been a regular on the channel, you'll know last year we did a hell of a lot of watchalongs for the Ali Pali. And no doubt there's going to be loads more content to come over the next month and into 2022. But as I said before, I'm not going to be alone today. I'm going to be joined a little bit later on by my good friend Chris Welch, co-host of the Double Top podcast. He's going to be joining us in around about 5 or 10 minutes time. But we've got about 25 minutes to kill. So we are going to talk you through the draw, who got involved, and of course, who actually qualified, because we did have the PDP qualifiers going on over the last couple of hours, which decided the final 3 spots of who was going to be at the Ali Pali in December. But very quickly before we start, a very warm welcome to everybody in the chat. If you want to get involved in the chat, do tell us who you want to see drawn up against each other in the Ali Pali in a few weeks' time. And of course, tell us as well who you'd like to see win the World Darts Championship, because no doubt I think there'll be a few early predictions come the very start when we actually know the draw by about, I would say, 7:30. We'll know who's facing who. So that's when we can really start to delve into our predictions of who's going to win and who isn't. But very quickly, warm welcome to Kyle, one of the regulars on the channel. Hopefully you're all good as always, Kyle. And a very warm welcome as well to Peter Raymond, another one of our regulars on the channel. Good to see you as always, my friend. Welcome along to all of the regulars as always. But Chris is still not here yet, so we're just waiting for Chris to come in. We will bring him in a little bit and we'll talk for everything, all things darts over the next 25 minutes. But I will start us off and say that this is a very, very exciting time of the year, because we've just had a couple of the big competitions go past, the Grand Slam and the Players' Championship quite recently. And we all know that there's not really many players in specific form. We saw Peter Wright yesterday win the Players' Championships in what was a very, very enjoyable final for the neutral when it went to that last leg decider after Ryan Searle got himself back from 10-8 down to 10-10. It was an unbelievable comeback and so nearly a chance for Ryan Searle to win his first PDC major in his first televised final. But Peter Wright, again, another final. That's 2 in a row after making the Grand Slam against Gerwyn Price. Made the final and won in style, 11-10. Brilliant result for him and a very, very enjoyable game for the neutral. And you could say he goes in as the favourite. 2 finals now. He said in his post-match interview with Online Darts that he believes that he should be the favourite for the Ali Pali. And I think you've got every reason to say that he deserves to be, at least in the bookies, the favourite to win this tournament. And no doubt, I think there'll be a couple other people out there, no doubt, sat here right now saying Gerwyn Price and Michael van Gerwen deserve to be the favourites as well. But I think, it's going to be very interesting to see who wins. And I'm glad to say he's joined us now on stream. Welcome along. He should be on. There we are. Mr. Chris Welch. How are we doing, my friend?
I'm all good. How about yourself? Been no time no see.
I don't know whether that's something on my end or something on your end, but I've got no sound. Let me try now. Say a few words, Chris.
Are you there?
I've got you. Sound.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. How are we doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm all good. How about yourself? Long time no see.
Long time no see, indeed. Looking forward to for what's to come, because I was just saying before you got in, of course, we had the Players' Championship yesterday, Peter Wright against Ryan Searle in that brilliant final. Who do you feel is going into this competition in the most form?
Well, you have to say Peter Wright winning that Players' Championship. He's hungry now in town. In town, he's hungry. I remember the World Master Player, before the World Master Player, he said he was going to win that. And he did. He won that. I mean, before the Players' Championship, he said he hates the Players' Championship, and he went on to win it. I won it. I won it enough. And so I have to say Peter Wright. Obviously, Players' Championship is normally like a warm up for the World, because it's a time before the World Championship.
Yeah,
I think Gerwyn Price has to be up there as well. Despite him, it was a disappointing Players' Championship for him, but to be fair, Gerwyn Price has been in form over the year, along with his Welsh counterpart, Jonny and the Ferret.
Yeah. I think everybody's expecting Clayton as a favourite, because I know Daz has just joined us. Evening, Daz. But evening, Josh. I think Peter Wright had a good win last night, and either Peter or Clayton to win the Worlds. He's the favourite, isn't he, Clayton, I guess, based on the whole 2021 calendar. He's won so many titles, being at the World Cup, of course, but these most notorious moments in the Premier League and the Labonauskas Masters. Do you think Clayton's got a good chance of going all the way?
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance. But the Players' Championship was probably... He didn't play well with the Players' Championship at all. Like, I don't think he played well before he played Peter Wright. He didn't play well against Peter Wright in that semi-final. The Players' Championship. Don't know what happened to Jonny, but to be fair, reaching the semi-final and not playing ASAP, it's good habit to have. It's done one for him. Still done one for Clayton. I think I do expect him to be in the United States of the World as well. I think he will turn up. He will turn up with his A game. I think the Players' Championship is probably... it was a week after the Grand Slam, so that might have played a part in Jonny Clayton's performances. So he'll get it through. He'll get a week rest, couple of weeks where he can practice, and I think he'll be on it. Like other players will be. Yeah, so definitely. I think and he should be in the United States for the year he's had. The year the Ferret is always that saying. The year the Ferret.
It could be the year of the Ferret. He's had a stellar year, and of course, there's still this big World Darts Championship to go. Very quickly, as I said, we've got 20 minutes before the draw. If you're just joining us, welcome along. If you are new, as always, don't forget to leave a like and subscription. Ben Lawson in the chat has summed it up perfectly. I think that this year there is a lot of people up for it. And when we go through the booking odds in a little bit, because over the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk through some of the 96 who are involved, how the draw works for any of you that are maybe new to darts, and everything in between. The bookies are predicting an incredibly close World Championship, which when you look at the state of play over the last couple of months, all of the different winners of the big PDC majors, I think this is the tightest World Championship that we've had in quite some time. And it's going to make it even more exciting to see what goes on when the draw takes place in about 20 minutes' time. So what we'll do first, as we've got a little bit of time to kill, is, of course, I'd like to know from you guys in the chat, any of you that are listening along, who would you like to see win the World Darts Championship? Because I know on the inside, I'd love it to see Gary Anderson win. Being a big Gary Anderson fan, I'd love him to make the final again and win it. But I think it's going to be a little bit tricky for him this year because the brackets, which I will talk about a little bit more in detail later for those of you that don't know, there's some very exciting brackets which are going to make for some interesting viewing. But for those of you that maybe don't know much about the World Darts Championship, maybe you're new to it, then basically the way that the World Darts Championship draw works is that the players in the top 32 of the PDC Order of Merit, they're automatically seeded into the second round of the draw. So the draw is going to be made. And basically, it's going to draw the first and the second round. So at the very start of the draw, Emma Payton will basically say who these second round players are going to face. So she will say Michael van Gerwen will face either, and then they will make the draw for the first round. So what I've basically done on screen to make it easy for you guys that maybe do get a little bit confused, as you can see, it says Gerwyn Price facing round 2. And then next to it will be the first round draw. So you will see who they could face in round 2. It gets a little bit more easier to understand when the draw actually takes place. Now, there is actually another Order of Merit. Again, if you're new to darts, there is the PDC Order of Merit, which takes place for all of the events. That's the floor events and the big PDC majors. And then there is a Pro Tour Order of Merit. Now, this is based on the PDC Super Series, which is something that's been going on over the last couple of months. It just recently ended at the back end of November. There is 32 players from that Order of Merit, which are going to go into the first round. They will come up against players who have qualified from international qualifiers, which we'll talk through later on. That includes the likes of Fallon Sheriff and Bradley Brooks. And Paul Lim, of course, which we'll talk a lot more about in a bit. But Paul Lim is one of the standout candidates from the international qualifiers. They will face up against each other in the first round. Makes for exciting viewing. That's pretty much all of the rules for the draw. The action takes place from the 15th of December to the 3rd of January next year. If you're wondering what it's actually covered on, it's on Sky Sports in the UK and on pdc.tv around the world. So it should be quite exciting because we haven't got long left to go. We've got, 16 days until the actual first round begins, and we'll all be very excited to get in the mood because Christmas is indeed all about the darts. And before we go through the 96 players, which I will start getting some on the screen now, which we'll talk through in a second. Who's your standout outsider, Chris? Because, of course, it's not been a while since we've actually spoke. Is there anybody who you feel that's maybe coming to form over the last couple of weeks or months that you think could actually surprise people at the Ali Pali?
Well, I did put Wayne Searle as my outsider in the Players' Championship. I'm so glad I did that now, and I didn't change my mind.
Can you class him as an outsider now he's in the top 16?
Yeah, he's not now, is he?
No. After that performance at the weekend, I think there'll be a lot of people expecting Searle to do quite well.
I mean, you could say Damon Hetter, for example.
Yeah.
He did well. He did well to play Championship. He just came off against Peter White in the end. It's never an easy task against Peter White. I would say Damon Hetter. I do find him, I don't know, he's just one of them players, like, whenever I've watched him, I do find him quite inconsistent, because I know he can be so much better at times. Because I think I remember he made that one, the Transcend Dart. Wasn't this year, might be in the year before. I think he reached it was the quarterfinals, I think. And yeah, I think Damon Hetter has to be up there. I would say Dirk Van den Bode, but I don't know if he's an outsider. because I thought what he done at the World War 3.
Yeah.
So I'll probably say Damon Hetter is the main standout one for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Dirk van Dijvenbode has dropped off a little bit this year. That run last year at the Ali Pali, everybody was looking at him and thinking, maybe he could do it again this year. But I think he's gone off the boil slightly. But before we go through the international qualifiers first, very quickly in the chat, I know I said to a couple of you guys, do put in the chat who you want to face against each other in the first or second round, and of course who you want to win. Cal says he wants to see an outsider or an underdog win the World Darts Championship. I think the way that seeding works makes it very, very hard for that to happen. Dad's saying Peter Wright to win, or Smith or Aspinall, which I'll come back to those three plays a little bit later on, because I picked out a few potential outsiders maybe that could go all the way, and some of them are in there. And then Louis Ashton as well saying, rooting for my man Krzysztof Ratajski, cool, calm and collected. If he can get past the quarterfinal barrier, he will go all the way. And I think Krzysztof Ratajski, again, he's definitely one of those candidates who will be up there for a potential shout to win the World Darts Championship with the brilliant year that he's had. But as time is ticking, we've got 15 minutes to go through some of the 96 players that are involved. As I said before, action was actually going on until early this afternoon. It was the PDPA qualifiers that were taking place to decide the final 3 players who were going to be at the Ali Pali. Those were decided earlier this afternoon, which means the full 96-man roster is now officially out. And as you can see, these are the 32 international qualifiers that'll be taking place in the first round of the tournament. And we're not going to go through all 96, but we are going to talk through some of the standout players. And of course, we'll start off with Lisa Ashton, the Women's Order of Merit's runner-up. She's always usually at the Ali Pali. She was the Grand Slam quite recently, had a very, very tough group with the likes of Michael van Gerwen, which unfortunately she got battered in. But again, like Fallon Sheriff, she'll be hoping that she can become the second woman to go and win a game at the World Darts Championship. And I think Lisa Ashton, you'll agree with me, Chris, is always one to watch in the draw. You're always intrigued to see who she gets, because she has got potential to go on and potentially win a game at the Ali Pali.
Yeah, it just depends on the tour, really. It's like you always pick some players that probably doesn't have a chance against. Yeah, not to be disrespectful, but then you got the other half of players who are. I think he's probably best off against someone out of form, like players that are out of form at the moment. You could say Doug Piest and Ken Dolan, who's been in horrid absolute form throughout the year, since he won the Premier League. I mean, someone like that. Maybe a rematch with John Henderson from the Trans Jam as well. Because John Henderson, he's on his day player. He really is on his day player. He'd be a danger for anyone else.
John Henderson.
He
made it.
that just shows how.
You can't even get him anyway.
Well, I'm very shocked by that. because I do know the 3 players who qualified from today. I actually thought John Henderson would have already qualified, which is mad.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Because John Henderson, I think this is the first time in I think since 2013 or something like that where John's not qualified, and you're always used to his name being in there. That like you said, I think he's had a pretty poor year, which kind of sums it up. And in fact, I believe he's the first player in PDC history to have won a technically PDC major and not actually qualified for the Ali Pali, which is an unbelievable stat. But going down the rest of the list, because we've got about 13 minutes till the draw starts. Bradley Brooks, you've seen him at the Grand Slam, had that brilliant game against Going Price, constantly roaring against the Iceman. He got through courtesy of the PDC UK Development Tour. Matt Campbell as well, another outsider. I think he's and you've said to me before, Chris, you think he's a brilliant player on his day. And he could be another player who could potentially do some interesting things in the international qualifiers, side the bracket at the very least. I think there'll be a lot of these players who will unfortunately go out at the early stages of the draw. 8 other names on the list. Paul Lim, the master of the Ali Pali. He's always here. He always makes it. We saw him last year in that unbelievable game against Luke Humphreys. He's back again. He made it through courtesy of the Asian Tour qualifiers. I mean, Louis saying in the chat, Paul Lim 9 data, anyone? I think everybody wants to see Paul Lim hit another 9 data. And I think everybody wants to see Paul Lim make it through, of course. Got knocked out in the 3rd round last year by Dimitri van der Berg. Diogo Portella as well came through for courtesy of the South America qualifiers. You'll remember him last year. Came up against Steve Beaton, beating him 3-0 with, I think it was around about an 85 average before, of course, being knocked out by Glenn Durrant in what was a fairly controversial match. There was a couple of people complaining about Glenn Durrant leaving his darts in the board, if I remember. But Portella was one of those players which did quite all right in terms of being an outside candidate in the tournament. So they are two of the standouts from that side of the draw. Danny Lauby Jr. as well has been playing in the online darts live league quite recently. He is another player who I think people are expecting to maybe not go far in this tournament, but could do a couple of interesting things. And then Charles Losper as well. Maybe not one of the standout names in terms of the qualifiers, but there is a little bit of a worry that he's not going to make it, of course, with the rules in the UK right now, based on the COVID, the endless thing that we don't really want to sit and talk about here. There is maybe a potential risk that we don't actually see Losper make it to the Ali Pali because of COVID rules. So hopefully Losper can make it, because it would be the 2nd time in a row that 2 South Africans have made the World Darts Championship. And hopefully we don't see any of these players drop out, because we did have it last year. I think it was, I can't remember which player it was off the top of my head, but there was a player last year who couldn't make it because of COVID. And got replaced in the end. If anybody knows in the chat, or Chris knows himself, then just jump in. But I do know we had a few players and issues last year with COVID. But we've got another set of 16 players as well. Madars Rasma, probably one of the biggest names in the international qualifiers section. He came through courtesy of the PDNCB Order of Merit. Martin Schindler. Now, we were talking earlier about our outside candidates to do well. I think Martin Schindler might be my one. Played brilliant against Gerwyn Price twice and still didn't make it through. But he's been playing some fantastic darts this year, the German, slowly moving up the rankings. And I feel that maybe this could be the year for Martin Schindler to do very, very well. Hopefully, he doesn't get drawn up against one of the big dogs. I am going to come to number 22 in a second, the probably the most controversial of the lot. But Darts Germany, putting in the chat, it was Martin Kleermacher. Thank you very much, Darts Germany. I would have forgot if not. It was Kleermacher who wasn't able to play. But number 22, Fallon Sheriff. Interesting year she's had. Of course, all of the stuff going on at the Grand Slam, making the historic run. Potential talks about her maybe making the Premier League. Still, in fact, trying to potentially fight for a tour card. This is a huge tournament for Fallon Sheriff. She preferably needs to make the 2nd round minimum and hope that some of the other players don't go as far to get a tour card. Can she do it, Chris? Because I think all eyes and all pressure is going to be on Fallon to do something magical again at the Alexandra Palace.
Well, she'll have the crowd on the side, so she did at the World Championship and the Grand Slam. So I just think I think she's even better than the World Championship, where she made that one. That showed in the Grand Slam with darts, where she was averaging over 100, which is ridiculous, absolute madness. And I don't really like this talk of her Raymond Mardo saying she should be in the Premier League. I think you need to earn it, and so you need to earn to be in the Premier League. I think you need to earn. You need to earn a tour card as well, if I'm being honest. But I think Fallon Sheriff, I think she'll get the tour card personally at the end of the World, because I do expect her to be the door more ahead of the 2nd round. Yeah, if I'm being honest, because no one wants to face her, especially men's surface, especially.
especially now he's not on good form as well. She's going to be one to watch, no doubt. And all eyes will be who Sheriff gets in the draw. Do tell us what you think in the chat about Fallon Sheriff, how far you think she can go in the tournament. And there's 115 of you in here. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're new, don't forget to leave a like and a subscription. We're going to go through the rest of the plays very quickly. The draw starts at 7:15. For those of you that have dropped in wondering, are we showing it? We can't because of copyright issues, but we are going to be covering the draw live, keeping you up to date as it goes along. We've got it all set up and ready, so do stick around if you haven't got access to the draw, because it is on Sky Sports in about 5 or so minutes time. Starts in about 10 or so minutes time. Mark Green saying in the chat she's playing well. She won at Vauxhall at the weekend. She did, from what I heard. There were a few people complaining about the fact she played in it, but everybody's going to complain about something. And then Louis Ashton has asked, is Barney there? I will come to that in a moment because he is at the Ali Pali. But very quickly, just to get through the rest of the international qualifiers, because time is of the essence, we'll move on to the other players. Jeff Smith as well, just very quickly, the CDC Continental Cup, another player who I think has got potential to maybe cause a few shocks and surprises. He's usually at the Ali Pali most years. The final set of players, though, very quickly from this side of the draw, we have our first ever father and son pair at the Ali Pali. Kai Smith and Raymond Smith became the first ever to do so. They're going to be in this competition, courtesy of being the Oceanic Masters winners and the DPA qualifiers. And then finally, we had 3 players qualify earlier today from the PDPA qualifiers in Barnsley. They were Nick Kenny, Boris Kirchmar and James Wilson. They're the final 3 to make this competition. Boris Kirchmar playing some incredible darts. In his first game, he averaged 120, which is just unbelievable, and was almost on the brink of defeat, I believe, against Alan Tabban at one point. Got himself back into the game, won it, and I think Boris Kirchmar has just saved his tour card as well as making the Ali Pali today. So a big, big result for the Croatian. And then Nick Kenny and James Wilson both making the Ali Pali once again. I think it's the second time Nick Kenny's made it, and it's the 5th time that James Wilson has made it as well. So that is the international qualifiers side of the draw. These are the 32 players that they will be facing in the first round, which will be drawn in just 5 minutes' time. And if my PowerPoint would like to move on, there we are. So here are the first of the 16. These have come from the Pro Tour top 32. So these are the players that didn't make the top 32 of the PDC Order of Merit. So they have been chosen courtesy of the Pro Tour instead. Just going through some of the 16 very quickly. Callum Ridds, what a fantastic year he's had. He is the first ranked player in the Pro Tour top 32. There you go, Louis. Raymond Van Barneveld. Chris, I know you're not Raymond's biggest fan in the world, but what do you expect of RVB in this tournament? Because I believe, as Lee's just put in the chat, very, very perfect timing, RVB keeps his tour card by qualifying, doesn't he? I believe he has. And of course, he's now got a really good chance to go on a very good run and move up quite heavily in the rankings. How far do you think RVB can go?
Look, I think on his day, even though in the United States, as we say, United States is, I mean, if he, God forbid, if he meets Mike van Gerwen like early on in the tournament, you know what Barney's like, he can cause that stout, and I didn't my problem with Barney is I didn't really like him retiring then coming back at the same time. It's like, what's the point of even retiring in the first place? But what he's done this year, I thought he's done quite well, to be fair, this year. It was always going to be hard with the standard of competition players we've got in darts now, and Barney's almost there in the top 64, and I think he'll break into that after the Worlds as well. I do expect him to, but it does depend on the tour as well. I mean, imagine if we get Barney, then Fallon Sheriff. Imagine that. The fans will love that.
An evil draw for someone, couldn't it, at the start? You don't want to get people like RVB. And I mean, looking in the chat, Darts Germany saying, I'd love to see RVB against Lim. And funny enough, Fallon's actually doing the draw with Wayne Mardle, which is quite interesting because I no doubt she's going to be nervous to see who she gets, but very quickly, I'm going to rush through things because the draw is literally going to be about 2 or 3 minutes. Adrian Lewis, I assume he doesn't want to see Peter Wright in this competition. There is a potential chance he could get Peter Wright in the latter stages, depending on what happens. And a couple of the players, Steve Beaton, making the Ali Pali for what feels like the 900th time, as well as Darius Labonauskas, another player who I think in the past has done quite well in this competition. Big things will be expected of him. On the other side of the Pro Tour top 32, Ricky Evans has had a horrible year. I think you could say he'll be hoping that maybe the Ali Pali could be a potential lifesaver this season for him. Rusty Jake Rodriguez as well, another player who I think has got big things expected of him. So does Keen Barry as well, another player who's been brilliant over the last couple of months, played some really good stuff at the World Youth Championships yesterday. Ted Evans as well, the actual eventual winner of the tournament, making it through courtesy of that win last night at the World Youth Championship. And then, of course, the actual top 32 players in the world. Now, these are seeded into the second round, so you will not see their names actually pulled out of the hat, but what you will see are the players that they're going to be facing. So the draw is going to take place in just a moment's time. Do tell us who you want to see face up against each other in the groups, but the way that it's going to work is that there are seeds and brackets involved. Very quickly to run you through the brackets before the actual draw starts. The first bracket involves Gerwyn Price, Kim Hybrex, Stephen Bunting, Dirk van Dijvenbode, Jonny Clayton, Gabriel Clemens, Michael Smith, and Glenn Durrant. So they are all in one bracket together. Eventually, these guys will face off against each other. That is quite a tasty bracket. You've got the world champion in there. You've got a Kim Hybrex who is back on form. You've got Dirk van Dijvenbode. You've got Jonny Clayton, which means that there could be an all-Welsh potential semi-final, I believe it could be, or quarters at the very least. And then you've got the likes of Michael Smith in there too. So a very good-looking first bracket. The second bracket, again, quite an open bracket, if I say so myself. You have James Wade, you have Vincent van der Voort, you have Joe Cullen, Simon Whitlock, Dimitri van den Berg, Devon Peterson, Christoph Ratajski, and Mervyn King. Probably the most open bracket of the bunch. I think the most informed player in there will be Dimitri van den Berg, potentially followed by Christoph Ratajski and James Wade. But there is a really good chance that one of those players could go on quite a run. And no doubt, I'm very excited to see potentially if someone like a Simon Whitlock or a Devon Peterson can get themselves out of bad form and maybe go all the way. I doubt it, but you never know. And then finally, there's actually 2 more. I'm kind of forgetting a couple of the other brackets. The third bracket, it involves, as we alluded to earlier, Peter Wright, Damon Hetter, Ryan Searle, could be a repeat of Wright and Searle later on, Danny Noppert, Jose de Souza, Mensah Suljovic, Nathan Aspinall, and Brendan Dolan. So that one, again, looking really tasty. There are a lot of players in that side of the draw that have been doing some really good stuff this year in the Pro Tour. Brendan Dolan, Ryan Searle, Jose de Souza being the number 1 in the Order of Merit originally for the Pro Tour. And then finally, the last actual bracket, the draw, Michael van Gerwen, Chris Dobie, Dave Chisnell, Luke Humphreys, Gary Anderson, Ian White, Rob Cross, and Daryl Gurney. I believe that bottom of the bracket is arguably some of the most informed players at the back end of this year. Daryl Gurney getting himself into some really good form at the Players' Championship. Rob Cross starting to look like the old Rob Cross again. Luke Humphreys looking really good at the Players' Championship against Jonny Clayton. And then, of course, MVG and Gary Anderson, 2 players that I think we all would love to see face off at the Ali Pali once again. But I think Gary Anderson as well, take out that really poor start he had against Stephen Bunting, has also got himself into a little bit of a run of form at the back end of the season. It's quite exciting, Chris. I'm not going to lie. Wayne Mardle and Colin Lloyd, it's not actually Fallon Sheriff doing the draw now, it's Colin Lloyd, are both on stage and ready to pull the names out of the hat in just a moment's time. Dash saying Fallon's make the draw will win. Marvel, that has, of course, changed. I think they just had Fallon there to basically get proceedings underway. But the first name are about to be drawn, and these will be facing off against Gerwyn Price. So the first and official names out of the hat is number 10, and number 10 is going to be Richie Edhouse. And Richie Edhouse will be up against number 61, that is Lee Hao Wen, came through courtesy of the international qualifiers. So that's the first name out of the hat. Second of all, to face Kim Hybrex. Kim Hybrex will face either Steve Beaton, of course, always been at the Ali Pally, for what feels longer than I've been born. Steve Beaton out of the hat, and he will face number 56. Wow, Fallon Sheriff will face off against the Bronze Adonis, Steve Beaton, with a chance to face Kim Hybrex. Tasty, Chris. Very tasty. What do you think about that?
Spicy, spicy draw, that one.
A very spicy draw. Next name's out the hat. Ross Smith will face off in the Smith Derby. Ross Smith against Jeff Smith for a chance to face off against Stephen Bunting in round 2. Next out of the draw to face off against potentially Dirk van Duivenbode in the next round. It's Jermaine Watermaner against Boris Koltsov. So it's Watermaner against Koltsov with a chance to face off against Dirk van Duivenbode in round 2. Next out of the hat is young Keen Barry, been brilliant this year, and he will face off against Royden Lamb for a chance to face off against Jonny Clayton. That is a pretty decent draw, I think, for Keen Barry, if I say so myself. Next out of the hat, in number 24, that's going to be Louis Williams. Came through as one of the last couple of names out the hat. And he will face off against Toyokazu Shibata, one of the players that came through in the Asian qualifiers. So that is Louis Williams against Shibata. Next out of the hat, this is to face Michael Smith. It is Ron Muhlenkamp. And he will face off against Lisa Ashton. Not a bad draw, if I say so myself, with the chance to face Michael Smith. Could be a very good draw indeed. Next one out. This is for Glenn Durrant, of course, been struggling this year. Hopefully we can see Glenn Durrant get back on form. He will be up against O'Connor or Danny Lauby Jr.
Oh,
Glenn Durrant against Danny Lauby Jr. Very good tie that could be. Next out of the hat, this is to face James Wade in round 2. It is number 13. That is Mike Kyvenhoven. Got some very long-winded names in here, and he will face off against a very short name, Kai Smith, of course, part of the first father and son duo to make the Ali Pally. Next out of the hat, this is to face Vincent van der Voort in round 2. It's number 31. Adam Hunt had a fantastic run last year before being knocked out by Dirk van Duivenbode, and he will face up against Boris Kirchmar, one of the players who made it through courtesy of the PDPA qualifiers earlier this afternoon. A very, very tough draw, I think. Next out of the hat, this is to face Joe Cullen. It is number 30, and number 30 in the draw is Ted Evitts, who won the Youth Championship last night against Nathan Rafferty, and he comes up against Jim Williams. Not a bad tie. Very good-looking tie for Ted Evitts and Jim Williams with a chance to face off against Joe Cullen. Next out of the hat, this is to face off against Simon Whitlock. Number 8 is Martin Kleermacher, and he will face off against number 48, and that is John Michael. So that's Kleermacher against John Michael for the chance to play Simon Whitlock in the next round. I think that's a pretty good draw for Whitlock, maybe. Next is first Dimitri van den Berg. It is going to be Florian Hempel, and he will face off against number 54, Martin Schindler. Wowee, is a German derby. The German fans will be loving it at the Ali Pally as Hempel takes on Schindler. Very nice tie. Next one is to face Devon Peterson in round 2. That is Jamie Hughes. And he will face off against number 60, Raymond Smith. So that is both the Smiths out of the draw. Come back to all of the other draws in a moment for those of you that have missed out. Next is Krzysztof Ratajski, and he will face in round 2 either Steve Lennon, a regular at the Ali Pali, or Madars Razma, probably the hardest opponent you could have got in the international qualifier section of the draw. Very tasty game. Next, Mervyn King. He will face off against either Ryan Joyce. Ouch. He's been in some good form at the back end of the year. And Ryan Joyce will face off against Roman Benecki in the first round. Good little tie that for Ryan Joyce, I think. Now, to face Snakebite. Tasty this one. Number 28. That is Ryan Meikle, a very good player. And he will face number 55. And that is Fabian Schmulzer. Now, I apologize if I absolutely butcher Fabian Schmulzer's name as I desperately write it up. But Fabian Meikle will face Fabian Schmulzer for the chance to play Peter Wright. Next up, Damon Hetter. You put him as your outsider, and he could face Luke Woodhouse on number 63, James Wilson. Not a bad tie that, if I say so myself. Luke Woodhouse doing some okay stuff this season. He'll be looking to go on a good run at the Ali Pali. Next up, William Borland. He's out of the draw. This is to face Ryan Searle, and he's up against Bradley Brooks. Willie Borland against Bradley Brooks. That could be a pretty tasty tie. Next
Big
up,
derby, isn't it?
It is indeed. Number 19, Jason Heaver. To face Danny Noppert, by the way. And number 53 is, I'm going to call him Juan Rodriguez for now, so I don't have to write the long name out. It's Juan Francisco Rodriguez. So Jason Heaver against Juan Rodriguez. Next up, Jose de Souza will face in round 2 either Jason Lowe, who almost knocked out going price at the Players' Championship this weekend, or number 44, Daniel Larson. Again, another one of the players who has made the Ali Pali quite recently, made it last year. One of those is going to be facing Jose de Souza. Next up, Mensur Suljovic, been struggling at the back end of this year, and it will be Alan Suter or Diogo Portella. We like it. That's a tasty tie. Portella doing some good stuff last year against Steve Beaton. One of those two is going to face Mensur Suljovic in the second round. Next up, Nathan Aspinall in the second round will face either Joe Mernon or number 46, Mr. Paul Lim. That's what we want to see. The Singapore slinger back for his 900th Ali Pali appearance. He's coming against Joe Mernon. Very nice tie. Next up, Brendan Dolan. Did some wonderful stuff at the Players' Championship. Nearly hit 2 9-darters in the same game. He will face either Callan Ridds, who is ranked number 1 in the Pro Tour, or number 64, Yuki Yamada. Not a bad tie, I think, for Callan Ridds. Next up, MVG, who is going to be facing the Green Machine in the second round. He will be up against either number 29, Chaz Barstow, or number 49, John Norman Jr. So not a bad tie for Michael van Gerwen in the second round. He's dodged a couple of the big guns, I guess you could say, in the back end of the draw. Still, Raymond Van Barneveld's in there. Chris Dobie next. He will face either number 23, Rusty Jake Rodriguez, who's been in some good form this year, or number 52, Ben Robb. That is to face Chris Dobie. Next up, Chizzy. Been in not the best of form at the back end of the year, has just recently had a child quite recently. It could be against Darius Labonauskas or Charles Losper. Charles Losper, the South African, potentially to face Dave Chisnell. Next up, Luke Humphreys, round number 2. 14 is Roby John, not long after Rusty was called out. And number 38, Nick Kenny, one of the last players to qualify for the Ali Pali early this afternoon in
Good
Barnes.
tie, that.
Next up, Gary Anderson, the Flying Scotsman, the one to watch for me, my favourite player. He will come up against either number 5 or Adrian Lewis. The jackpot is out the pot. And he will face, in the first round, number 36. That's Adrian Lewis against Matt Campbell. That is not an easy tie. What a draw that is. Not just for the Flying Scotsman, for A.D. Lewis. Next up, in white. And he will face either Scott Mitchell or number 43, Chris Landman.
The BD or Derby, that one. Mitchell, Landman.
Next up, Rob Cross. Number 3, Mr. Raymond Van Barneveld.
Bloody hell.
Will be up against, in the first round, number 37, Lawrence Elagan, one of the players who has been at the Ali Pali for God knows how long. He will face Raymond Van Barneveld, and the final name out of the hat, Daryl Gurney. He will face either Rapid Ricky Evans or number 41, Nitin Kumar. So to run through your first and second round draw, once again, for those of you that have just joined us live, we'll start from the very top. So first of all, Richie Edhouse and Lee Hao Wen will be fighting for a chance to play Going Price. Kim Hybrex will face either Steve Beaton or Fallon Sheriff in the second round. Stephen Bunting will face either Ross Smith or Jeff Smith. Watermana against Koltsov for a chance to play DVD. Keith Barry against Royden Lamb. That's for a chance to play Jonny Clayton in round 2. Louis Williams will be coming up against Toyokazu Shibata, not Toyokazi Shibata. I think it was Toyokazu Shibata to face Gabriel Clemens. Ron Muhlenkamp against Lisa Ashton. What a game that one could be. For a chance to face Michael Smith. Of course, Smith did actually quite recently play Lisa Ashton at the Grand Slam, I believe. Glenn Durrant, he will face either William O'Connor or Danny Lauby. Mike Kyvenhoven up against Kai Smith for a chance to face James Wade. Adam Hunt against Boris Kirchmar. What a draw that is. That is to face Vincent van der Voort in round 2. Ted Everts and Jim Williams. That's for a chance to face Joe Cullen. Clearmacher against John Michael. That's for a chance to play Simon Whitlock. Dimi van der Berg. What a game this one is. Florian Hempel versus Martin Schindler. The German fans will be bouncing at the Ali Pali when that one's played. That's for a chance to play Van den Berg. Jamie Hughes is up against Raymond Smith to face Devon Peterson. Christoph Ratajski in the second round will face either Steve Lennon or Madars Razma. Again, another draw. Ryan Joyce or Roman Beneke will go through to face Mervyn King. Ryan Meikle and Fabian Schmulzer will face off for a chance to face off against Peter Wright. Luke Woodhouse against James Wilson for a chance to face off against Damon Hetter. Ryan Searle, he'll face off against either Willie Borland or Bradley Brooks. Now, that one is a tasty game, as you alluded to earlier, Chris. Jason Heaver and Juan Francisco Rodriguez, they'll face off to play Danny Noppert in the second round. Jason Lowe against Daniel Larson. That is for a chance to face off against Jose de Souza. What a game this one could be. Alan Suter against Diogo Portella. That is for a chance to face off against Mensur Suljevic. The Singapore Slinger is up against Joe Mernon to face Aspinall in round 2. Callum Ridds against Yuki Yamada. That's to potentially play Dolan in the second round. MVG, good draw for him, either Chaz Barstow or John Norman Jr. Rusty J. Rodriguez, he's up against Ben Robb. That's to potentially play Chris Dobie in the next round. Dave Chisnell, he will face either Darius Labonauskas or Charles Losper, the South African. Roby John Rodriguez is up against Nick Kenny. That's for a chance to face off against Luke Humphreys. What a tie this is. Mr. Gary Anderson could be up against Adrian Lewis or Matt Campbell. I mean, both of those games are very, very tasty. In white, he's going to face either Scott Mitchell or Chris Landman. Rob Cross will face either Raymond Van Barneveld or Loris Alagan. I mean, that is a stunning draw within itself again. And then finally, Daryl Gurney will face either one of Rapid Ricky Evans or Nitin Kumar. I mean, Chris, there have been some fantastic ties in there. I've got to ask you, first of all, who's and what's your standout game from the first round draw?
Well, good question. Good question, actually. There's actually too many. But I have to say, I do have to say Darius and then Adrian Lewis or Matt Campbell. I mean, the flashback of 2 world finals between Darius and Adrian Lewis from 2011, and I can't remember what the other year, but I think it was when Darius won it then. But that's the standout tie for me. It has to be that one between Darius. I mean, Adrian Lewis not even dancing to go through either with Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell can cause a danger to both players, both Darius and Adrian Lewis, in my opinion. And it's a tough draw for Matt Campbell as well. I mean, you need a miracle to get through that, if I'm being honest. If Darius turns up on his head, then.
And well, we saw when he played last year, he sometimes wasn't even playing his A game, and he made it through to the final against Gerwyn Price. Again, Rob Cross, a real good game this one could be. Loris Alagan and Raymond Van Barneveld. We know last time that RVB was at the Ali Pali, he was knocked out in the first round. It was just not long after he decided to retire, wasn't in the best of conditions. But RVB coming in with a new mindset. He comes up against Loris Alagan from the Philippines, another player who's been at the Ali Pali for some time. The second round, if Rob Cross comes up against RVB, both players in really good form. Voltage, of course, recently winning a European tour. I think, again, that could be another one of standout round 2 ties.
Yeah, completely agree. I think Barney will just beat Arden, if I'm being honest. But you never know going to Arden. He is a dangerous player for anyone in the first round. Even for Van Gerwen as well, if I'm being honest. With the way Van Gerwen can be inconsistent times. But this tie, another standout tie for me. If I'm potentially any one of them 3 on that banner can make it through to the next round, if I'm being honest. Because I know Rob Cross does see him back to his best, back to winning trophies. But you just never know going to Iden. You just really don't know. It's just a proper chap in the boss on stage as well. The way he chumps about, divvying it, the fist pumps and all that. And yeah, but I do respect Rob Cross first away from Barneveld in the second round, if I'm being completely honest. But it's still a dangerous game for Barney.
Yeah. Definitely. It's a tough draw indeed. And for those of you, very quickly, if you are just joining us, welcome along. Don't forget to leave a like and a subscription if you're new, as always. We've got loads of content to come up on the Sports Corner over the next couple of weeks. As you know, it's not long till the Ali Pali party begins on the 15th of December, for those of you wondering when it starts. We are going to be doing a lot of content on here. We're looking to do watch-alongs over the period. I am going to be at the Ali Pali, likely to be at the back end of the tournament, covering some of the event, hopefully towards the back end with the quarters, the semis, and the final. So I will be there. So we'll hopefully, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we can maybe do some stuff for each night. I want to do something party at the Pali, like an after show to cover each night's events. But I'm going to try and get everything sorted. If you do want to stick around and you're a big darts fan, then do subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be tons of darts content for the next couple of weeks as the party begins at the World Darts Championship. But to go over a couple of the other draws as well, let's talk about the 2 women who've been drawn out. What a draw this is. I mean, this is an underrated draw within itself. Of course, Kim Hybrex, as I alluded to earlier, has been brilliant this season, really getting back to his best again at the World, not at the World Championship, over the last year. But the first round tie for who he faces, Steve Beaton, the Bronze Adonis. I think so many people over the last couple of years have been saying, how the hell has he still got a tour card? But year after year, he keeps chugging along. He keeps his tour card and keeps, all of the prize money consistently. What a game this could be. Fallon Sheriff, does she have a chance to make it through, do you feel? Or do you think the Bronze Adonis is going to be too much for the Queen of the Palace?
Oh.
It's a tough one, I know.
If you look at current form, you would probably say Fallon Sheriff gets through in this one and Steve Beaton. But Steve Beaton at the end of the day, and it's on his day for Steve Beaton. He can beat anyone. He's done it in recent years where he turns up in one game with his A game, and he has knocked out some of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree. This is a very underrated tie, this one. And even if Fallon Sheriff does go through, it's not another tough. This is a tough day in the second round. And Tim Hypers, who's back to his bets after he did go off it the last couple of years, but does seem back to his best. Tim Hypers, and
Absolutely.
but you never know. It's Fallon Sheriff. It's Fallon Sheriff at the end of the day. He's causing upsets all the time. So, but it's another dangerous tie for all three of them, if I'm being honest.
It definitely is. And just going through the chat very quickly, Ree's in the building. Hope you're good, Ree's, as always. I hope you're well. Mark Green said she will outscore him. Just got to hit those doubles like she did at the Grand Slam, definitely. And then Carl saying he'll add the Darts Corner Twitter link when I'm in the Dart streams. Thank you very much, Carl. You're a legend, as always. But I'll just quickly running through it as well. For those of you that maybe don't know how the bracket works, depending on Fallon Sheriff's run, if Fallon Sheriff was to make a run in this tournament, she could face Gerwyn Price in the third round. Of course, she'd have to beat Steve Beaton and Kim Huybrechts, but what a tie that would be if she was to go all the way in that. So there's a potential chance that she could do that. And then, of course, the other female in the tournament, Lisa Ashton, she's going to be facing off against Ron Meulenkamp. Now, if you're wondering how Ron Meulenkamp made the tournament, he came 21st in the Pro Tour Order of Merit. An interesting tie for Lisa Ashton. Do you feel like she'll be looking at that draw and thinking to herself, I've dodged a few bullets, or will she be looking at it and thinking, ouch, not the draw that I wanted?
I mean, one more becomes a funny player as well.
Yeah.
Because he's got the dame. He has got the dame, one more in camp. I watched him in the Players' Championship against Christopher Chatsey. I think Christopher Chatsey was just too much for one more camp in the end. I don't think Monkamp did much one. He missed his key opportunities he had in that game. But I think with Chatsey, it was just too much for him in the end. But I think Yeats Watson, I think he has dodged a few bullets. I think he's got a chance. He has got a chance in this game. Then it's one more time. I think it'd be a close game. I don't think Yeats Watson will win it comfortably or the other way around. I think it'll be probably a close game, that one. Because one more time, you just never know. He's very inconsistent for me, one more time. One day he can turn off, the other day he just doesn't turn off with his air game. He's done it all over for the whole year. He's been inconsistent for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, depending on what he does on the day, Lisa Ashton could maybe be the one that sculpts up the victory rather than Fallon Sheriff. But again, with the way that the draw works in her side of the bracket, if she was to make the third round, there is a chance she could face Jonny Clayton. So we could see two women against the biggest Welsh players in darts in the third round. We might be dreaming a little bit, but, you know, stranger things have happened. Moving on to the second side of the bracket, I've got to say, what a game this is. It's the German derby, Florian Hempel against Martin Schindler. I alluded to earlier that Martin Schindler had been on very good form at the back end of the year. Of course, made it through courtesy of the European Super Series, I believe it was, or the one of the tournaments. I'll just very quickly check. It was the PDC Europe Super League, which was run earlier at the back end of the year. A lot of Germans participating in that tournament. Of course, whoever wins that will go on to face Dimitri van den Berg. I think Martin Schindler, we saw it against Price twice. He can hit those big 100 plus averages. He can match up against the world's best, but we've just not seen it consistently enough. Do you think maybe that the experience of the Ali Pali and the whole occasion could be the thing that motivates Martin Schindler? Because Van den Berg being out with COVID, we've seen a couple of players struggle from it. Jose de Souza saying quite recently he feels he's only recently got back to what he feels is his best performances. Is there maybe a chance that one of these two players can capitalise on that, as harsh as it is to say?
Could do. It really does depend how affected they are by it, because I think Ken Dunn's had it as well. when he's been in that horrid run of form. Maybe that's played a part as well. It's always got to affect him, but this is a German derby for you. And Hempel has obviously came out from Norway. Yeah, a few people might have not have heard of him until I think it was the European Darts Championship where he knocked out Peter White. I think
he did.
Yeah, he knocked out Peter White, and I obviously saw him before that for the whole year, and he's one of the upcoming German players. And Martin Schindler, good to see him back, moving up the Pdc Order of Merit, because I think start of the year we were saying to each other, I think it was in the first episode of the podcast, Martin Schindler was actually in the middle of nowhere, what has happened to him, but good to see him come back up. And it was on his day. He is a quality player. And as for round 2, Dimitri Van Barneveld, I think this is dangerous. I think Van Barneveld, he might just go through in it, but it is a dangerous game whoever he plays. Because Hempel, he can knock out a big player like Peter White. Martin Schindler beating Darren Price. I know he was in the meanest game in Transcendent Darts, but Martin Schindler still beat him. And Darren Price would have wanted to win that game for Darius for momentum. So both players capable of giving Dimitri Van Barneveld one for his money.
Yeah, definitely. Just very quickly, seeing in the chat, Clive saying, "Hey, Sports Corner, like and subscribe." Thank you so much, Clive. If you are new and you have enjoyed it, then don't forget to leave a like and subscription. We will talk through all of the stuff that's to come on our channel over the next couple of weeks at the back end. Very quickly, though, as I said, this bracket of the draw, which includes Wade, Van der Voort, Cullen, Whitlock, Van den Berg, Peterson, Ratajski, and King. We said it earlier, it's a very, very open draw. Van den Berg, Wade, and Ratajski are probably the 3 most informed players of the year that are in that side of the bracket. But there's a couple of players in there that could do some special stuff. Adam Hunt, I said before, he's got a game against Boris Kirchmar. It's a very, very tough game. I have to admit, Boris Kirchmar playing some wonderful stuff today in Barnsley at the PDPA qualifiers. But if Adam Hunt can go on a run again, it could do some real good for him in terms of where he is in the actual world rankings, because we know how much money's on the line at the Ali Pali. It can be not just life-changing money, but it can be a huge change in terms of rankings by the back end of the year. Adam Hunt currently 48 for the world on £72,500. If he could get 30, 40, 50 grand, he moves in towards the top 32. That's how big the money is in this tournament. It can change people's rankings and change everything. Kyle says, where will the World Darts Championship take place? Master saying at the Ali Pali. It is indeed at the Alexandra Palace in London. Very nice indeed. But very quickly, we'll move on to the 3rd section of the draw and look at some of the standout games in there. First of all, I think we should take a look at the game between Willie Borland and Bradley Brooks. I mean, Ryan Searle, of course, is the man that they will face in the second round. Bradley Brooks doing some fantastic stuff quite recently. Ryan Searle, of course, we saw what he did last night. It was bloody marvellous. And then Willie Borland as well, who I believe was doing all right at the Players' Championship. I can't remember where he finished in the end, but I know he went on a little run before being knocked out.
He got beat off Michael Smith, didn't he? I think
he did, yes. And it wasn't a convincing game, was it, for Smith?
Very scrappy in terms of finishing. The storm was done between both of them with sister finishing, which is typical Michael Smith for you.
You're not wrong. And I mean, Willie Borland, he'll look at that game and he'll know that Bradley Brooks is going to be a tough opponent. He's been brilliant this year, Bradley Brooks. And what I like about him, and especially with a lot of the young players that are on the tour, they have a confidence that I think he's oozing in a lot of the players. We saw it with Nathan Rafferty when he played Johnny Clayton. Even when he was losing, he was so determined on stage just to get as many legs as he possibly could. And I mean, whoever Ryan Searle faces in the next round, he's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but it's certainly a very good tie to look out for. Alan Suter against Diogo Portella. we spoke earlier about how Mansur Suljovic, since he was defeated by Fallon Sheriff, has just dropped off form a little bit. Didn't play good at all at the Players' Championship, was booted out really early. I think it was with a 77 average. One of these players is going to have a very big opportunity of maybe making a little run here, because if they then go through, they would go on to face Jose de, they would go on to face Jose de Souza. So it's going to be tough, but I think, do you think Alan Suter will look at this, or Portella, and think there's a chance here I could maybe make the third round with Suljovic off? He's in awful form, to put it politely.
I mean, this seems to be the Fallon Sheriff effect with Men's Surface, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the Worlds, it was the same. I think even before that, he was in good form, then got beat off the Surf at the Worlds, and was down in form. And but I tell you what, I do fancy Suter or Portella to get through. I really do. And most likely, I do fancy Alan Suter. I do think he is better than Portella. Not by much, but only shots. After seeing him at the UK Open as well, on Suter. And I haven't on Suter got a chance to get through to the third round and even pick up some prize money, which will be good for him in the terms of Pdc Order of Merit as well.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, when he played in the UK Open against Barneveld, he was fantastic. And even on the floor tournaments this year, he's quite high up in the Pro Tour Order of Merit. So a big credit to Alan Suter, because I think he's one of the fan favourites in the PDC. He's got a very good cool, calm, collective kind of approach when it comes to the game. And I think him and Portella will definitely be a very good first round match. Of course, we know Portella last year for his performances against Glenn Durrant, and more specifically against Steve Beaton, as my laptop computer's just crashed. So I'm just waiting for it to come back. There we go. Clive Boy saying, what's happened to Mensah? His form has really dipped lately. I just think it's after that result against Fallon Sheriff, because when he lost to her the first time at the Ali Pali, he struggled massively afterwards, and he had that really, I think it was a couple of months where we just dipped in form. So I think a little bit of that has come into play again. Barney Army, tough draw, saying SGB. It is indeed. I'll talk about that one in a little second when we move over to the fourth section of the draw. Very quickly, Joe Mernon against Paul Lim, the Singapore slinger, the fans' favourite at the Ali Pali. Once again, another good game. Paul Lim making it to the third round last year against Dimi van den Berg. Played really well against Dimi van den Berg. I think he lost 3-2 in the end on sets, or something like that at the very least. And again, Paul Lim will be looking to go on another run, although he would face Aspinall in the second round. And then we will move on to the last section of the draw. This is section number 4. I want to very quickly just talk about Darius Labonauskas against Charles Losper. We said earlier on today, of course, with the COVID rules, hopefully Charles Losper does get to come, but with South Africa right now on the quarantine list, if he's not here already, there is a real risk that Losper might have to drop out, because I can't see politely the UK government's rules changing unless they do in the next 2 weeks, which I really hope, touch wood, they do, because that would be, again, the second time that there have been 2 South African players at the tournament. We had 2 South Africans last year, so it'd be nice for Charles Losper to be there. If he does get to play, he plays off against the Lithuanian Darius Labonauskas, who, again, had a good little run at the Players' Championship just a few days ago. And again, Chris, Dave Chizzy, I know he's had a child quite recently. Congratulations to him. I think that will politely be the more important thing on his mind right now. But Chizzy made that incredible run last year, beating Michael van Gerwen by 5-0 in that shock game last season. Can Chizzy do it again? Or do you think Labonauskas will be looking at this thinking, Chizzy's off form, I could beat him, as Master Hersey's been saying in the chat himself? What do you think, Chris?
I do think been quite impressed with Darius in that set, especially the performance he put in at the Players' Championship against Mervyn King. And Dave Chisno, he always has that curse about him. Like, he knocks out a big player Then the next round, he just beat, he did at the Worlds with Darius in that semi-final, where he just didn't turn up. Darius was a far better player. So it's always that curse with Dave Chisnall, or any player where when they beat Mike van Gerwen, it seems to get knocked out the next round. But I think that's a dangerous game for Chizzy. If he does meet Darius Labonauskas, with all due respect to Charles Losper, if he does make it, just what he does. If it's Chisnall, Labonauskas, if it's Dave Chisnall against Darius, I think that's a dangerous game for Chisnall.
Yeah, I agree with you. As you said, Labonauskas is playing some really good stuff at the back end of the year. I think he's always one of those players in the draw that you look at and you think you really don't want to face him because he can turn up and punish you, like he did against Mervyn King at the weekend in Minehead. Krianga Kalinikos, I hope I haven't butchered your name, mate. He says, come on, James Wade, getting a really good draw, Wade. Potentially could go on a really good run this year. And then Clive Boyce said he remembers that whitewash of Chizzy of MVG. It was 107 average Chizzy had in that game. It was an unbelievable match when you look back at it, considering how well MVG played against Cullen in the round before. But finally, just going through a couple of other games, we spoke earlier about Gary Anderson, Adrian Lewis against Matt Campbell. What a game that one's going to be, and the potential appetizing Gary Anderson, Adrian Lewis second round game. I think that's what the neutral will want. But Adrian Lewis getting himself back onto form again, almost nearly won the PDC Super Series, lost to Dimitri Van den Berg a couple of weeks ago. Adrian Lewis still be hoping he can do some good stuff, but let's hope he keeps his cool, calm temperament like he always has had. Or maybe not. Yeah, he's got to keep his cool, I think, because, Gary Anderson, he didn't keep his cool last year, did he, with the Tablegate situation? So it could be a quite hot-tempered, flared game. Michael van Gerwen, I think he'd be looking at that and thinking, well, I think I'm through to round 3. Chaz Barstow, John Norman Jr., on the other hand, will be looking at that and thinking, oh dear, the worst possible opponent you could have faced. Look, Chaz Barstow will probably be the likeliest of the two to make it through. John Norman Jr. Making it through courtesy of the CDC Canada Tour. I think Barstow will come into this as the favourite. But it's quite an easy draw, isn't it, for MVG, who, if he does go through, will then face off against Chris Dobie. So MVG got a good chance to go on a run this year, Chris.
I think for world number 1, I think he needs to.
Yeah.
Because with Price and Peter White starting to create a gap in that prize money, running away from Mike van Gerwen, I think, bit of a spoiler, I think Van Gerwen will go on to win the whole thing, win the whole world, because there's always a 2-year gap with Mike van Gerwen where he doesn't win the Worlds, but then it's always 3rd year lucky. It goes on to seem to win it, and I think he needs to win it. Not just for a world number 1 spot, not purely. I'm not saying it's going to be the end of his career if he doesn't have a good one this time, and it's just if he wants to be in that race for world number 1, I think he needs a good one at Yates. Needs to reach the Yacht stages, semi-finals, final. And I think he'll be still in the race for the world number 1 spot. And you have to say, obviously, Durham Price will be defending money start up next year as well. Well, in this year's Worlds, where it'll be, he said, a 2-year gap, where you'll be defending that prize money from what you won at the World. Yep. So I think Van Durham needs to. I think he needs to have a good one in this tournament, because I thought Players' Championship might be his chance to. I mean, it is mad for Van Durham that he hasn't won anything this year. Well, not anything as in bid. I know he won a series title, not a series final against Fallon Sheriff. But I think Mike van Gerwen, for some reason, I just think he'll turn up in this World and go on to win it.
Yeah, it could be a good World Championship for Michael van Gerwen. There is the potential chance that in the 4th round, Michael van Gerwen could maybe face Gary Anderson. We all like the sound of that, or maybe even a repeat of a couple of years ago final against Rob Cross. He's quite a tasty tasty draw in terms of that side of the bracket. But very quickly, once more, if you're just joining us wondering who's going to face who, these are the draws on your screen. Steve Beaton against Fallon Sheriff, being one of the standout ties of the draw. We got the Smith Derby in there. Jermaine Watawina against Boris Koltsov. Keen Barry against Royden Lamb. Lou Williams against Toyokazu Shibata. Ron Mullenkamp against Lisa Ashton. William McConnell against Danny Lauby. And of course, you can see the rest of them. They're going to go along your screen now. But for those of you wondering what we're going to be doing for the World Darts Championship, well, we've got 2 weeks to go until the action starts. If you are new, don't forget to leave a like and a subscription because we've got loads of content to come on the channel. Some of you guys asked earlier, will the Double Top podcast be back? Yes, I'm hoping to bring that back. And I'm also looking to do something if we can't do many streams of watch-alongs, because if you're regular, you know, we've had a few connection issues. I'm looking to do the after party at the Ali Pali, a nightly show after all of the games have done, where we'll review the day's action. That's something to maybe look at doing when the Ali Pali party begins. But that will be our after show, where we'll cover all of the day's action. There is also our new dedicated darts Twitter, which is at the Darts Corner. Please do go and follow it if you haven't already. We keep up to date with all of the latest news in the world of darts. There's plenty of news, no doubt, to come over the next few weeks as we edge closer towards the beginning of the World Darts Championship. If you want to check out other social media links as well, I would show you them, but I tell you what, this computer is having an absolute nightmare. So I will just say the links are in the description and in the chat, usually, as always. But Daz saying, when can Peter meet MVG, Josh? I believe it wouldn't be
semi-final.
Minimum semi-finals, yeah. So it could be quite some time until we actually see them two face off against each other. But Kyle's putting him in the chat now. He's a legend as always. Thank you, Kyle. We have our website too, which is thedartscorner.com. So if you want to go and check that out too, then I highly would recommend it indeed. But I want to say a big thank you to Chris, as always. Greatly appreciated for joining us tonight on the show. Brilliant draw for what is going to be a fantastic tournament. Do not miss out on it. The World Darts Championship, it starts on December the 15th. We'll have build up to the tournament with myself and Chris coming up over the next few weeks with the Double Top podcast. But as for now, please don't forget to leave a like and subscription. We will be back, hopefully, at some point in the next few weeks with the Double Top podcast. But stay safe and let the Ali Pali party begin. We'll see you again soon. Good night.